as our keynote speaker, the Reverend Al Sharpton. Reverend Al Sharpton is one of the nation's most renowned civil rights leaders and the founder and president of the National Action Network. He is a national leader on issues regarding education in America and the fight to ensure equality for all in the U.S. education system. A native of Brooklyn, New York, Al Sharpton began his ministry at the tender age of 4, preaching his first sermon at Washington Temple of Church of Christ and God in Brooklyn. Just 5 years later, Reverend Sharpton was licensed to be a Pentecostal minister. In 1971, at the young age of 13, Reverend Sharpton was appointed youth director of New York's Operation Breadbasket, an organization founded by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Early in his career, Reverend Sharpton set out to stoke the fire of the civil rights movement and, as the voice of the downtrodden, leading marches and rallies to call the public and the media's attention to racial injustice. His direct action movements have been credited with discarding laws on racial profiling, and he has influenced police department reform across the nation. Reverend Sharpton is known for holding people accountable for perpetuating negative and racist stereotypes. He confronted the New York Post for choosing to print controversial cartoon with racist undertones. He has challenged the recording industry to have standards for artists that don't include use of the N, the D, and the H words. Reverend Sharpton was instrumental in having shock jock radio host Don Imus taken off the air. And blocking divisive radio commentator Rush Limbaugh from purchasing the NFL's St. Louis Rams. Throughout his career, Reverend Al Sharpton has challenged the American political establishment to include all people regardless of race, gender, socioeconomic status, or beliefs. In fact, few political figures have been more visible than Reverend Al Sharpton over the past 2 decades. Reverend Sharpton says his religious convictions are the basis for his life, and on most Sundays he preaches to congregations across the nation. Reverend Sharpton was educated in the New York public schools and attended Brooklyn College. He has an honorary degree from AP Bible College. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my esteemed pleasure to present to you Reverend Al Sharpton.
Thank you very much. First, give honor to God, to our pastor, Reverend Pitts, and to all the ministers of the gospel, and to all of you that gathered here this afternoon to worship and celebrate these 115 years of New Hope. First, I thank God for another day. A day that we neither earn nor deserve. God was get up in the morning like God owed us another day. Or like we had done something to deserve another day. But I don't care how saved you claim to be. I don't care how holy you look to us. All of us have done enough wrong that any night we sleep, if God just checked the record, none of us will see the next morning. Every day is a gift from God. That's why I travel a lot. Folks travel with me, always checking out the weather reports, see what kind of day it's going to be. I very rarely check out the weather, because every day is a good day to me. Could be a good cold day, good hot day, good rainy day, good dry day, good cloudy day, good clear day. Don't matter to me. Every day above ground is a good day. Every day I wake up, I realize that somehow while I slept, a divine decision was made to look beyond my faults and supply my needs. So I try to show God every day that I'm grateful that He gave me what He didn't owe me, but He gave it to me anyhow. Then I'm happy and honored to be here at the celebration of this church, 1 century and 15 years. Not many things can celebrate lasting over a century and still going strong. And we ought not take that for granted. And we ought not act like it's just another thing. For people to stay together for 115 years and then on that occasion have a new headquarters of worship, a new sanctuary, new ground. And no small measure because you have a 21st century visionary and giant in Reverend Ivan Pitts. It is one thing to have a seat or to take a seat or a big chair. It's another to be able to then take that chair and seat to the next level. And Reverend Pitts not only sat and learned and was mentored, he took what he learned and innovated it and has brought new hope to another dimension, which vindicated the belief of his mentor and the calling of God. If God calls you to something, you ought to show some sign. Some of y'all been saved 50 years and ain't sure the sign yet. The Bible says you judge a tree by the fruit it bears. If you're not bearing no fruit, then something wrong with your root. I can come from 2 years ago to now and see the fruit this young brother has born, and we've gotten proud of him and stand with him. Give a big hand to Reverend. I also want to thank young brother Moffett for that introduction. Did a great job, not only reading it, but how he held himself. And we ought to encourage and extol our young people when they do well and right, because it also then tells other young people that that's the models that they ought to follow. The reason why a lot of young people follow negative models is because we only raise negative models. When you see someone trying to do right and in the right type of cadence as he is, he ought to be lifted up. And as he said, that I started very young, but a lot of that is because I had older people that gave me the opportunity. Like Bishop Washington in the Church of God in Christ, and then later Bill Jones. I saw today, I think Ruby Rouse out here in the audience that stood and let me operate when I was a teenager. And is that you, Ruby? Stand up. This young lady here. When I was starting the National Youth Movement at 16, she gave me my office. And then told me to pay rent when I could. I never did pay the rent. But I learned because people gave me a chance, and I'm so happy. She didn't even know I saw her, but I'm happy to see her in the audience today. I'll never forget her and Ben Brown and others' contribution to my life. Let's turn to the book. 91st Psalm. Beginning at the first verse. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. May God add a blessing to the reading of the word. I want to use for a thought for this anniversary, in whom do you trust? In whom do you trust? 4 days as I have traveled, I have seen a very interesting set of circumstances that makes me ponder, Dr. Pitts, on where we are as a people in our community. On Friday, I spoke for the Prime Minister of Barbados. He brought me to address about 5,000 students there, because even in a beautiful country like that, they're beginning to have gang problems. I flew back and went last night to President Obama's White House Correspondents' Dinner and argued this morning about the immigration bill on ABC, where they are now, based on the suspicion of police, saying in Arizona they can make people prove they're citizens or put them away until they can. A lot of black folks say to me, why you care about the Latinos? Like in the dark in Arizona, they're going to know the difference between you and the Latinos. They profile anybody, we on the list. But even if we weren't, we should fight for what's right. No matter who the victim or victimized. But what bothered me, and then as I flew in from Washington and came straight to the church and was talking to Reverend Pitts about right here in Connecticut. We're still faced with such social problems and social inequality, where the achievement gap in the schools is still so wide between those that are making it and those that are not. And where you have 20% of the population in Connecticut black, but 70% of the folk in jail black. I'm talking about in 2010. So many of us that act as though the struggle for social justice and the struggle for right is over, don't realize that the struggle is not over until we achieve equality. Someone was saying to me the other day, Reverend Sharpton, we got an African-American president, we've achieved the dream of Dr. King. And I told him that was not Dr. King's dream. It's a great thing. I'm working with the president and supporting the president. But the dream was not to put one black family in the White House. The dream was to make everything equal in everybody's house. President Obama being in the White House can help us get there. But we're not there yet. Amen. You know, it's like flying in a plane. I was coming back from Washington, we hit some clouds coming in. After a little turbulence, we cleared the clouds and I could see the ground and see the LaGuardia. Well, just because I cleared the turbulence, I didn't get off the plane. But we hadn't landed yet. A lot of y'all, because we got through some of the mess in the past, and it looks clearer now, act like we've arrived. We just got through the bumps. But we have not arrived yet. And if you get off the plane now, you're going to kill yourself. But what is so interesting to me, Sister Pitts, is that we get amnesia. And we get weaker. The Bible prophesied that the world would get weaker. And why? We have more to work with today than any generation before us. And we do less with it. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. changed America's social order and never had a fax machine. Thurgood Marshall rewrote the United States Constitution, never had email. Fannie Lou Hamer revolutionized the South, never knew what Facebook was. What is my point? They changed the world with a rotary phone. Here we've got 100 ways to communicate. Twitter, internet, laptops in your house, computers in every room, 2 or 3 cell phones in your pocket, black mirrors. They can't get 5 Negroes together to do nothing. Where we are. Imagine how it was 115 years ago for some colored people in the South to form a church. 115 years ago in Connecticut, where you legally had no rights that anyone was bound to respect, where your job options were meager to nothing, and where you had to make it the best way you could, yet even under those conditions, some black folk from the South with little or no education formed New Hope. It almost seems ridiculous to even talk about hope, given their situation, but despite their circumstance, they said, we got hope. In fact, we have new hope. And they built a church. Here you are 115 years later with PhDs and master's degrees and big houses and nice cars, and somebody got to beg you. They'll build a structure. When your great-grandparents and grandparents built this and they had none of what you had. And then you have the nerve to ask God to give you more when you won't share with what He's already blessed you. We challenge a lot of what's going on today. Brother Moffett was right. I challenge some of the conduct of our young people because we did not get where we are by beating ourselves down, by calling ourselves names, calling our women hoes and bees. These people that formed New Hope, those people that broke down the walls of segregation, they did it because they had pride and they had self-esteem. And now we get to a position that we can perform at the highest levels and we calling ourselves names. I remember when we came out, National Action Network and NAACP and others, and said, let's stop using the N-word. I thought about how Rosa Parks sat down in front of a bus, and because they arrested her, there was enough dignity in the community that the whole South stood up. And they closed the bus company down in Montgomery. They said it's better that we walk in pride than ride in shame. Now we come 55 years later and we calling our women names. We calling ourselves the N-word. I remember one night we got to debate it on television, on BET Pits, and one of the rappers and I got into it. He just went off. Said, I call myself what I want. I got freedom of speech. I said, no you don't. What do you mean? I said, they will not let you put a CD out calling nobody else's names but us. Think about it. You put a CD out against Irish, hate speech, and they right. Against Jews, hate speech, and they right. Against gays, hate speech, and they right. So let me get this right. If you say a bad name against Irish, hate speech. You say a bad name against Jews, hate speech. You say a bad name against gays, hate speech. Call blacks niggas, free speech. the freedom to denigrate yourself. He looked at me and went off, had a nigger fit. Nigger. And what I said, Pitts, he just niggered me all night. About 6 or 7 weeks later, I was on the road and picked up the paper one morning. He'd been arrested. I read the article, they found something and arrested. 2 or 3 days later, they called me from our headquarters in Harlem and told me he was on the phone, want to talk to me. I said, well, connect them through to my cell phone. They connected them through. He came on, how you doing? I said, how you doing? He said, well, I ain't doing too good. I said, yeah, I read something. He said, yeah, they busted me. I said, yeah, what happened? Yeah, they busted me. I said, well, what can I do? He said, I need your help. I said, well, you need my help to do what? He said, they violated my civil rights. I told them, niggas ain't got no civil rights. Less material things, but they had more pride and more self-esteem and more dignity. And had they not had that, we would not be where we are today. I remember last January, I was flying into Washington for the inauguration of President Obama. About 3 days before the inauguration, a young white brother crossed the aisle when we landed, came over to me and said, Reverend Al, I said, yes, sir. He said, it's exciting times. I said, very exciting. He said, and I was all choked up when I read that Senator, soon-to-be President Obama, is going to be sworn in with his hand on Abe Lincoln's Bible. And I thought about it, I said, yeah, you know, it probably chokes me up even more than you. He said, why do you say that? I said, because what you probably don't know is when Lincoln put his hand on that Bible, it was against the law for my people to even be able to read that Bible. And to think that we've gone from false legal illiteracy to where in 3 nights a black man and woman will bring their 2 daughters up to sleep in Lincoln's bedroom. Showed us how far God brought us. But there must be something about this Pitts that they are not looking at, and I figured it out. People that made it through all of that made it because their faith and trust was in something they couldn't see. And some of us have become so looped and so convinced in a computer age that if you can't connect the dots, you don't believe in something. And we put our care and our faith and trust in only tangible things. But I want you to know that the reason they could build a church like this is they could believe in things they couldn't see. I love the president's book, The Audacity of Hope, he got from his former pastor's sermon. I remember Reverend Jackson used to talk about keep hope alive. But hope is all right, but there's a step past hope. Because hope is just a feeling. Hope is maybe tomorrow will be a better day. Hope is my luck will change. But there's a step past hope called faith. In fact, faith is the substance of things. Hope for the evidence of things not seen. Faith is when the give up. But you hold on for another doctor. It's when you got a pile of bills and no money. But you say he will provide all of my needs. Faith is when your friends walk out. When your loved ones don't know your name. When your family denies you. But you say, I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me behind. We come this far. Wrote, I'll explain it to you when you can't find the comfort in this world. He that dwells in the secret place. There's a place that's secret that folk can't see. There's a place you can dwell without even moving from where you are. There's a place you can remove yourself from the pain and the temptations of this world. He that dwells in the secret place. Why would you dwell there? Because you put your trust in God. We put on the money we trust in God, but we don't trust in God. Because if you trusted him, you know he couldn't fail. God meets you at the level of your trust. Reason you panic is you really don't trust him. You know, I said earlier, I fly a lot. In fact, some weeks I fly 3 and 4 cities a week. And one of the things that I do is I fly. It doesn't matter to me whether it's good weather, bad weather, whether it's good forecast, bad forecast, the plane going, I'm on it. The only time I won't fly, Pitts, is if they tell me it's the pilot's first trip. They tell me the pilot ain't never flown before, this is his first assignment. Yes, sir. Reverend, I don't go up on that. This is right around all of me at the airport saying, don't worry about it, Reverend. You've been to pilot school, he got a certificate, I understand all that. But there's something about he may go up and go in a cloud, can't see it, he ain't never been able to control it, have to read the radar. I don't want to be there the first time. He may hit some turbulence and he ain't never been the one at the towers when the planes start dropping and shaking. I don't want to be there the first time you go through that. What is my point? A lot of you want friends that have clean and pristine backgrounds, come out the right family, been to the right schools, been in the right circles, ain't never had a problem, never been busted, never had a heartbreak, never had a bad relationship, never made a mistake. I don't want no friends like that. All you clean friends ain't never been to nothing, don't hang out with me. Because I don't know how strong you are. Because you ain't never been through that. You ain't never had a crisis in your life. You ain't never been at wit's end in your life. You brag about it all you want, but you just telling me how weak you are. Because you don't know what you could take until you had to take something. Some mess in life, don't hide it. Put it out there. Because the more mess you've been through, show what God brought you through. Don't be worried about people digging up your background. Put your background out there. Because it showed how strong you when I was a little boy, Brother Moffat, I used to preach what the old preachers preach. I used to talk what I heard Bishop Washington and them talk. I used to preach as a little boy about God would bring you through trials and tribulations. But I was going by what I heard the old preachers say. But now I can preach for myself. I'm not talking about what I heard somebody else say. I trust him because I've been there. And I know he'll bring you through because he brought me through. I can tell you today for myself that he'll dry tears from your eyes. He'll hold your hand. He walks with me. He talks with me. He tells me that I'm his own. Yes. 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 I remember, I'm going to say this, I remember I heard Mama saying I went to Brooklyn College. Well, you know, I was the first one in my family to go to college. No one in my immediate family had ever been to college. When I went out to the campus of Brooklyn College, I thought I was a big shot. But no Sharpton had ever been to college. All of my friends on the campus knew I was a preacher. So they said, Reverend Al, we want you to take us to church one Sunday. Hence, I tried to avoid it because I knew they wouldn't understand our kind of church. But they kept bothering me so till I decided one Sunday I was going to take them to church with me. I called home Ruby to my mother. Ruby knew my mother. I said, Ma, I'm bringing some friends to church this Sunday. She said, oh, that's nice. I said, I appreciate it if you be cool this week. She said, what you mean by that? I said, well, you know, Mama had a funny thing in church. She jumped up in the middle of the service and she leaned over to the side and started jumping up and down. And I didn't want Mama to embarrass me in front of all my college friends. She's all, boy, go on about your business. We got to church that Sunday morning. I sat out in the pew. I didn't get in the pulpit. Mama was sitting across the aisle. She had on one of her sharp Sunday suits. Had on one of her go-to-meeting Sunday hats. Had a scarf across her legs. Trying to act all sophisticated. Trying to act all polished. Going to impress her boys' college friends. But about halfway through the service, choir started singing one of them old songs. And Mama started thinking about what God had done for us. The more they sang, the more Mama's mind went back. How she raised me and my sister all by herself. We had to make it on welfare and food stamps. But somehow, God made a way for it. When she couldn't pay the light bill, I'm here walking around the house singing, I'm going to trust in the Lord. I'm going to trust in the Lord until I die. And the more Mama thought about it, she forgot all about me. She forgot all about her, my friends. She jumped up out of her seat, leaned to the side, jumped up and down. Yes, yes, his chest. They knocked me out. When I woke up, I didn't know what the diagnosis was. I laid there in recovery all night long. I didn't think about my college friends. I didn't think about my college professor. All I can think about is I hope somewhere my mother is praying for me. Chest. Oxygen crossed my face. I looked up and asked the doctor, tell me what it is. He said, well, I'll tell you the truth, Reverend. You had a lot of emphysema. You had a lot of phlegm in your chest. But it's a funny thing. We looked early this morning and it looked like it's all cleared up. Everything gonna be all right. While he was talking, my right leg out the bed. He said, wait a minute, Reverend. Don't get up. You got that intravenous in your arm. You got those tubes in your chest. You got oxygen in your nose. If you need the restroom, we give you bed pain. I still reached over. My foot hit the ground. He told the nurse, make him lay down. He gonna mess up the equipment.